Captain Jake Mitchell stood on the bridge of the New Horizon, watching the stars through the large window in front of him. He had been exploring space for 20 years, but today felt different. Today, they were going to meet aliens for the first time in human history. The ship's computer made a soft beeping sound. "Captain, we are getting a signal from the alien ship," said Lieutenant Ben Harper, who was sitting at the communication desk. Jake walked over to look at the screen. The alien ship was huge, at least 10 times bigger than the New Horizon. It looked like it was made of crystal and metal, with strange lights moving across its surface. "Open a channel," Jake said. "Let's see what they want to say." The screen flickered, and suddenly they were looking at something that definitely was not human. The alien was tall and thin, with skin that looked like blue crystal. Its eyes were bright white, and when it spoke, the words came out like music. "I am High Commander Duftai of the Valtharian Empire," the alien said. Its voice was strange, but they could understand the words. "You are the species called humans, correct?" Jake nodded. "Yes, I am Captain Jake Mitchell of the human ship New Horizon. We come in peace." The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. "Peace, yes, all new species say this. You will learn that peace comes through order. The Valtharian Empire has brought order to this part of the galaxy for 3,000 years. 2 weeks later, Admiral Lisa Carter arrived at the meeting point with a small fleet of human ships. She was Earth's best diplomat, a woman who had solved many problems without fighting. She hoped she could do the same here. The meeting took place on a space station that the Valtharians had built just for this purpose. Admiral Carter walked into the large meeting room with her team. Dr. Amy Rodriguez, their alien expert, stayed close to her side. Captain Mitchell was there too, along with several other human officers. High Commander Zeftai was waiting for them. He was even taller than he had looked on the screen, almost 8 feet high. Several other Valtharians stood behind him, all looking very serious. "Welcome, humans," Zeftai said. "We have prepared terms for your integration into the Empire." Admiral Carter sat down at the table. "Integration? We came here to discuss peaceful relations between our peoples." "Peaceful relations exist only within the Empire," Zeftai replied. "We have 847 species under our protection. All live in peace because all follow Empire rules." Dr. Rodriguez leaned forward. "Protection? What kind of protection?" Another Valtharian, smaller than Zeftai, stepped forward. "I am Sub-Commander Ithsay. When species join the Empire, we protect them from war, from hunger, from the chaos of independence. All we ask is that they follow our guidance." Captain Mitchell crossed his arms. "And if a species doesn't want this protection?" The room became very quiet. Zeftai's crystal-like face seemed to glow brighter. "In 3,000 years, only 17 species have refused our offer. They learned that refusing protection means accepting destruction." Admiral Carter kept her voice calm. "High Commander, humans have lived free for thousands of years. We have fought wars, yes, but we have also created art, music, and science. We have explored space because we choose to explore. Freedom is very important to us." "Freedom is chaos," Zeftai said. "Order is peace. Your species is young. You do not understand the galaxy yet." Dr. Rodriguez had been studying the Valtharians while they talked. She noticed that they all moved in similar ways, spoke in similar patterns. "High Commander, in all your empire, do any species still govern themselves?" Sub-Commander Ithsay answered. "All species contribute to the Empire according to their abilities. Some provide food, others provide workers, others provide soldiers. The Empire decides where each species serves best." "That sounds like slavery," Captain Mitchell said. Zeftai's white eyes flashed. "Slavery is a primitive concept. We provide order, purpose, meaning. Species that join the Empire never worry about making wrong choices because we make all choices. For them. Admiral Carter looked around the table at her team, then back at the Valtharians. High Commander, we thank you for explaining your empire to us. But humans cannot accept this offer. We must remain free to make our own choices, even if sometimes we make wrong ones. You refuse our protection? Zeftai asked. We refuse to give up our freedom, Admiral Carter said. But we do not want war. We want to live in peace as neighbors. We can trade, share knowledge, help each other, but as equals. High Commander Zeftai stood up. All the other Valtharians stood up too. No species in this part of the galaxy exists outside the Empire. You cannot be equals because you are not strong enough. You are not wise enough. You are not old enough. Captain. Mitchell also stood up. High Commander, let me be very clear about something. Humans have fought many wars on our home planet. We learned to fight because we had to protect our freedom. We prefer peace, but we know how to fight. All species think they know how to fight, Zeftai said, until they fight the Empire. Admiral Carter stood up slowly. High Commander, I want to make sure you understand what I am about to say. We came here hoping to make friends. We still hope for that. But if you force us to fight, we will fight. We will not surrender our colonies. We will not bow to anyone. She looked directly into Zeftai's bright white eyes. We seek peaceful coexistence, but we will defend our freedom. Do not mistake our desire for peace as weakness. Don't push us. The Valtharians looked at each other. Sub-Commander Ithsei whispered something to Zeftai in their musical language. Zeftai turned back to the humans. You have 30 of your Earth days to reconsider. Bring your leaders to us. Surrender your outer colonies. Accept Empire protection. If you do not, we will provide you with a demonstration of Empire strength. And if we still refuse after your demonstration? Admiral Carter asked. No species has ever refused twice, Zeftai said. The meeting ended with no agreement. As the humans walked back to their shuttle, Dr. Rodriguez grabbed Admiral Carter's arm. Admiral, I've been listening to their language. I don't think they understand what we just told them. What do you mean? Admiral Carter asked. Every species they've conquered gave up quickly. They think our warning was just talk. They think we'll surrender like everyone else. Captain Mitchell shook his head. Then they're about to learn something new about humans. Admiral Carter looked back at the space station as their shuttle flew away. Yes, they are. I just hope it doesn't cost too many lives on both sides. But deep down she knew that hope was probably not enough. 28 days had passed since the meeting with the Valtharians. High Commander Zeftai sat in his command chair aboard the massive warship Eternal Order. Around him, dozens of Valtharian officers worked at crystal control panels that hummed with energy. Sub-Commander Ithsei, report on human response, Zeftai ordered. Ithsei approached the command chair. High Commander, the humans have not responded to our generous offer. Their colonies continue normal operations. No surrender signals have been received. Zeftai's crystal face glowed brighter. Then they choose the path of all foolish species. Begin standard pacification operations. Target their outer colonies first. Which targets, High Commander? Asked the weapons officer. Begin with the colony called New Seattle. It has the largest civilian population. When they see their people dying, the human leaders will surrender quickly. The Valtharian fleet moved through space like a school of deadly fish. 12 massive warships surrounded by hundreds of smaller attack craft. They had used this same formation to conquer 43 different species. It always worked. On New Seattle Colony, Commander Ryan Bell was working in the Colonial Defense Center when the alarm started screaming. He was a former Earth military officer who had volunteered to help protect the outer colonies. He never thought he would actually need to fight. Commander Bell, we have 12 large ships approaching the system, reported Sergeant Nancy Cole from the sensor station. They're not responding to our communication attempts. Ryan looked at the screen showing the approaching fleet. His stomach felt heavy. How long until they reach us? 6 hours, sir. Ryan pressed the colony-wide emergency button. Sirens began wailing across New Seattle. All civilians to emergency shelters immediately. This is not a drill. All civilians to emergency shelters. The colony had been built to handle asteroid strikes and solar storms. Every building connected to a network of underground tunnels and reinforced shelters. The colonists had practiced emergency drills, but no one thought they would need them. For war, Mary Johnson grabbed her 2 children and ran toward the nearest shelter entrance. She was a teacher who had come to New Seattle to build a better life. Now she was running for her life. "Mom, why are we running?" asked her son Tommy. "Some bad people are coming, honey. We need to hide until the good people make them go away." All across the colony, families disappeared underground. Farmers left their fields. Factory workers abandoned their machines. Within 4 hours, the surface of New Seattle looked empty. Commander Bell stayed in the defense center with 30 volunteers. They had some weapons, but nothing that could fight a space fleet. Their job was to coordinate the evacuation and try to help people survive. "Commander, the alien ships are in orbit now," Sergeant Cole reported. "They're scanning the colony." Through the defense center's thick windows, Ryan could see lights moving across the sky. The Valtharian ships looked like floating crystals, beautiful but terrifying. A voice came through the communication system. It was High Commander ZFTI, "Humans of New Seattle Colony. You have 1 hour to surrender unconditionally. After 1 hour, we will demonstrate Empire justice." Ryan picked up the communicator. "This is Commander Ryan Bell of New Seattle Colony. We have no military targets here. This is a civilian settlement. Leave us alone. You had 30 days to surrender. You chose resistance. Now you choose consequences." Seftai replied. 1 hour later, the Valtharian ships began firing. Bright energy beams struck the colony's buildings. Explosions shook the ground. The attack continued for 2 hours, destroying everything on the surface. But when the firing stopped, Zeftai was confused. His sensors showed the colony's life signs were still strong. The humans were still alive, somewhere underground. "Sub-Commander Heathsay, explain this," Zeftai demanded. "High Commander, it appears the humans built their colony with extensive underground facilities. The surface destruction did not reach the civilian population. This had never happened before. Usually, orbital bombardment killed enough civilians to make a species surrender immediately. Send ground troops. Find these humans and make them surrender," Zeftai ordered. But the ground troops found something they did not expect. The moment they landed, humans began attacking them from hidden positions. The colonists used mining equipment as weapons. They turned construction robots into war machines. They used the planet's own geography against the invaders. Commander Bell coordinated the resistance from his underground command center. Team Alpha hit the landing zone from the east. Team Beta target their supply drop. Remember, we don't need to win. We just need to make them pay for every meter. Meanwhile, in space, Captain Susan Hayes watched the attack from her ship, the Liberty Bell. She was supposed to be running supply missions between colonies, but now she was watching her friends being attacked. "Captain, we have orders to retreat and report to Earth," said her first officer, Lieutenant Gary Wood. Susan looked at the Valtharian fleet surrounding New Seattle. She thought about all the families hiding underground. She thought about Commander Bell and his volunteers fighting. Impossible odds. "Delay that order, Lieutenant. Send a message to all human ships in this sector. Tell them New Seattle needs help." "Captain, we're just cargo ships. We can't fight a fleet." "We can't fight them head to head," Susan agreed. "But we can make their lives difficult." Over the next week, something happened that the Valtharians had never seen before. Small human ships began attacking their supply lines. The humans used hit-and-run tactics, striking fast and disappearing before the Valtharians could respond. Captain Hayes led 3 cargo ships in an attack on a Valtharian supply depot. They loaded their cargo holds with rocks and used them as weapons, ramming the depot and destroying months of supplies. On 3 other colony worlds, the same pattern repeated. The Valtharians would demand surrender. The humans would refuse. The bombardment would begin. But the humans kept fighting from underground, and their spaceships kept attacking from the shadows. High Commander SciFi found himself in a situation no Valtharian commander had faced in 1,000 years. The conquest was taking too long. His casualties were mounting. Worst of all, the humans were not surrendering. Sub-Commander HFY, how many ground troops have we lost? SciFi asked. Over 3,000, High Commander. The humans fight differently than any species we have encountered. They do not seem to fear death. All species fear death. Increase the bombardment. Destroy more of their cities. High Commander, we have destroyed their cities. They live underground. Now and their ships continue to attack our supply lines. SciFi stared at the tactical display showing human resistance across 4 colony worlds. This was supposed to be over in days, not weeks. On Earth, President Helen Davis stood before the Global Assembly. Representatives from every nation on Earth filled the Great Hall. Behind her, a screen showed images from the colony attacks. My fellow humans, President Davis began. 30 days ago, we offered the Valtharian Empire our friendship. We warned them not to push us. They chose to push us anyway. The assembly was completely quiet. Everyone knew that humanity's future was being decided. They attacked our colonies. They killed our people. They thought we would surrender like every other species they have conquered. President Davis's voice grew stronger. They were wrong. She pointed to the images behind her. Our colonies still fight. Our people still resist. The Valtharians expected quick victory. Instead, they found determined resistance. Today, I am authorizing full military mobilization. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier Earth can provide will be sent to defend our colonies and our freedom. President Davis looked directly into the cameras broadcasting her speech across human space. To the Valtharians, I say this. You were warned. You chose to push us. Now you will learn what human determination truly means. The Global Assembly erupted in applause. Across human space, people watched and knew that their species would not go quietly into slavery. High Commander SciFi received reports of massive human military buildup. For the first time in his long life, he began to wonder if the Valtharian Empire had made a mistake, but it was too late to stop now. The war had begun, and neither side could back down. 6 months had passed since the first attacks. High Commander SciFi stood in his war room, staring at a map of the galaxy that now showed far too much red. Red meant human resistance. Red meant his forces were stuck in long battles instead of quick victories. Sub-Commander HFY, report, SciFi ordered. HFY approached carefully. Giving bad news to the High Commander had become dangerous. High Commander, we control the surface of 7 human colonies, but the humans continue to fight from underground. Our ground forces cannot end the resistance. And our fleet losses? We have lost 43 ships to human attacks. They strike our supply lines, then disappear before we can respond. SciFi's crystal face grew darker. 43 ships in 6 months? We have never lost so many ships to a single species. Meanwhile, aboard the human battleship Defiance, Chief Engineer Paul Kim was working on something that might change everything. He had been studying captured Valtharian weapons for months, trying to understand how their energy beams worked. Captain Williams, I think I found something. Paul called to his commanding officer. Captain Dan Williams came over to Paul's workstation. The Defiance was Earth's newest battleship, sent to help defend the colonies. "What do you have, Paul?" Paul pointed to his computer screen showing wave patterns. "The Valtharian weapons use harmonic energy. They tune their beams to break through our shields by matching our shield frequency. Can we stop them? Better than that. I think we can make shields that change frequency faster than their weapons can adjust. Look at this." Paul activated a small test device. A miniature shield appeared, glowing blue. Then the color began shifting rapidly through different shades. "If our shields keep changing frequency, their weapons can't lock on. They'll bounce right off." Captain Williams smiled for the first time in weeks. "How fast can you install this?" "On our fleet? Give me 2 weeks and I can upgrade every human ship in the sector." While Paul worked on shield improvements, Colonel Maria Santos was turning Haven Colony into something the Valtharians had never seen before. She was a military engineer who specialized in defensive warfare. Haven Colony had been a farming world before the war. Now Maria was turning every farm, every building, every piece of equipment into part of a giant weapon system. "Johnson, how are the weather control systems coming along?" Maria asked her assistant, Lieutenant Pete Johnson. "We've modified them to create localized storms, Colonel. We can make fog, rain, even small tornadoes anywhere on the planet." "Good. What about the mining equipment?" "All converted to military use. The mining drills can punch through Valtharian armor. The transport trucks now carry missile launchers." Maria looked out at Haven Colony. During the day, it looked like a normal farming community. But hidden under every barn and house were weapons and defensive systems. The entire planet was now a fortress. When the Valtharians finally attacked Haven, they expected another quick victory. Instead, they found themselves fighting a planet that fought back. As soon as Valtharian ships entered the atmosphere, the weather control systems activated. Thick fog covered the landing zones. Lightning struck their ships. Hurricane-force winds pushed their aircraft off course. The Valtharian ground troops that did manage to land found themselves under attack from directions they didn't expect. Farm tractors equipped with weapons attacked their positions. Underground tunnels let human defenders appear and disappear like ghosts. "This is madness," complained Valtharian Ground Commander Kethril as his forces took heavy losses. "How can agricultural equipment be so dangerous?" Back on the Defiance, Dr. Amy Rodriguez was making her own breakthrough. She had been studying Valtharian prisoners and had discovered something important about how they communicated. "Captain Williams, I need to show you something," Amy said, bursting into the bridge. "What is it, Doctor?" Amy activated her computer, which began playing strange musical sounds. "This is how Valtharians talk to each other. They use harmonic frequencies. But watch what happens when I do this." She pressed another button, and the musical sounds became harsh and discordant. "I can disrupt their communication by broadcasting interfering frequencies. If they can't talk to each other, they can't coordinate their attacks. Can you make these interference devices for our ships?" "Already working on it. I call them Harmony Jammers." 3 days later, the Harmony Jammers got their first test during a space battle near Mars Colony. Captain Jake Mitchell, now commanding a small task force of human ships, led the attack against a Valtharian patrol fleet. "All ships, activate Harmony Jammers on my mark," Jake ordered over the radio. The human ship struck fast, using Paul Kim's new shield technology to protect themselves from Valtharian weapons. At the same time, Amy Rodriguez's jammers filled space with interfering frequencies. The effect on the Valtharians was immediate. Their ships began moving erratically, unable to coordinate with each other. Some collided with their own allies. Others fired in random directions. "Their formation is falling apart," reported Lieutenant Sarah Murphy from the sensor station. "Press the attack. Hit them while they're confused," Jake ordered. The battle lasted only 20 minutes. When it was over, the human task force had destroyed 6 Valtharian ships without losing a single vessel of their own. News of the victory spread quickly through human space. For the first time since the war began, humans had won a major space battle. On Earth, President Helen Davis met with her military advisors to discuss the changing situation. "Madam President, our new technologies are working," reported Admiral Carter. "Paul Kim's shields, Amy Rodriguez's jammers, and Maria Santos's defensive strategies are all proving effective. What about our offensive capabilities?" "President," Davis asked, "Captain Mitchell's task force tactics are working well. Small, fast human ships can outfight larger Valtharian fleets if we use the right strategies." General Bob Taylor, Earth's military commander, leaned forward. "Madam President, I think we're ready to move from defense to offense. We can start taking back our colonies." President Davis nodded. "Do it. But remember, we're not trying to conquer the Valtharian Empire. We just want them to leave us alone." The first offensive operation began at New Seattle Colony, where Commander Ryan Bell had been fighting underground for 6 months. Human ships equipped with the new technologies attacked. The Valtharian occupation force Paul Kim's shields protected the human ships from enemy fire. Amy Rodriguez's jammers confused the Valtharian coordination. Jake Mitchell's tactics used speed and surprise to overcome superior numbers. The battle for New Seattle lasted 3 days. When it ended, the Valtharian occupation force was in full retreat. Commander Bell and his surviving volunteers emerged from their underground shelters to see human ships in the sky above their ruined colony. "Ryan, this is Captain Mitchell. New Seattle is free." Bell looked around at the destroyed buildings, then at his people emerging from hiding. They were tired, hungry, and scared, but they were alive and free. "Thank you, Captain. We never gave up hope." As news of the victory reached other human colonies, resistance movements grew stronger. On planets still under Valtharian occupation, human fighters began using the new weapons and tactics. The Valtharian Empire was learning something they had never experienced before. This war was not getting easier with time. It was getting harder. Hi. Commander Zeftai received reports of the defeats with growing alarm. The humans were not just resisting anymore. They were winning. Sub-Commander Say, how is this possible? "We have superior numbers, superior ships, superior weapons." "High Commander, the humans fight differently than any species we have known. They adapt quickly, they use unconventional tactics, and they never surrender." Zeftai stared at the tactical display showing human advances across multiple fronts. For 3,000 years, the Valtharian Empire had been unstoppable. Now for the first time they were losing. "Contact the Imperial Council. Request immediate reinforcements from the core worlds." "How many ships, High Commander?" "All of them. If we cannot defeat the humans quickly, this war may spread to other species. If other species see that the Empire can be defeated." Zeftai did not finish the sentence, but both commanders understood. The Valtharian Empire ruled through fear. If that fear was broken, the Empire itself might collapse. The war was about to enter a new and more dangerous phase. 1 year after the war began, Admiral Lisa Carter stood on the bridge of the new human flagship, Unbreakable. Through the wide windows, she could see dozens of human ships preparing for their biggest operation yet. Today, they would try to break the Valtharian blockade around Earth's outer colonies. "Admiral, all ships report ready," said Captain Mike Stevens, her tactical officer. Lisa nodded. The past year had changed everything. Humans were no longer just defending themselves. They were winning battles and liberating occupied worlds. But the Valtharians had brought in massive reinforcements from their core systems. The real test was about to begin. "Captain Mitchell, are your task forces in position?" Lisa asked over the communication system. From his ship, the Relentless, Captain Jake Mitchell replied, Ready, Admiral. Volf Packs Alpha through Delta are in position around Proxima Gate. The Battle of Proxima Gate was about to begin. The gate was a space station that controlled travel between human colonies and Earth. For 6 months, the Valtharians had held it, cutting off supplies and reinforcements to the outer worlds. High Commander Zeftai waited for the humans aboard his new flagship, the Infinite Power. Around him floated the largest Valtharian fleet ever assembled. 200 warships, each one bigger than the largest human vessel. Sub-Commander Ithsay, the human fleet approaches, reported the sensor officer. How many ships? Zeftai asked. 47 confirmed, High Commander, much smaller than our force. Zeftai allowed himself to feel confident for the first time. In months, the humans have fought well, but numbers must tell in the end. Prepare for standard battle formation. But Jake Mitchell had spent months studying the history of warfare from Earth. He remembered how smaller forces had defeated larger ones throughout human history. The key was not to fight the enemy's strength, but to attack their weakness. All Volf Packs, begin Operation Broken Arrow. Jake commanded. Instead of attacking the main Valtharian fleet, the human ships split into 4 groups. Each group attacked a different part of the enemy formation simultaneously. Paul, Kim's adaptive shields protected the human ships as they moved at high speed through the Valtharian lines. Amy Rodriguez's Harmony jammers disrupted enemy communications. The Valtharians found themselves unable to coordinate their massive fleet. What are they doing? Zeftai demanded as his orderly battle lines dissolved into chaos. High Commander, the human ships are too fast. They strike one area, then move to another before we can respond, Ithsay replied. The battle raged for 8 hours. The human ships moved like wolves hunting a much larger prey, striking weak points and disappearing before the Valtharians could bring their superior firepower to bear. On Earth, President Helen Davis watched the battle reports with her advisors. Each update showed human ships successfully hitting Valtharian targets while avoiding major losses. Madam President, Admiral Carter reports the gate station is under human control, announced General Taylor. The room erupted in cheers. Proxima Gate was more than just a strategic victory. It proved that humans could defeat even the largest Valtharian fleets. But the real change was happening on worlds throughout the galaxy. Species that had been under Valtharian rule for centuries were watching the war with growing interest. On the world of Kepler-7, a species called the Mordani had been slaves to the Empire for 800 years. Their leader, Elder Vexara, called a secret meeting of the Resistance Council. The humans continued to win battles against the Empire, Elder Vexara said to the gathered Mordani leaders. Perhaps it is time to consider that the Empire is not unbeatable. Similar meetings were happening on dozens of worlds. The Valtharian Empire had ruled through fear for 3,000 years. Now that fear was cracking. Captain Mitchell received a secret message while his task force was refueling after the Proxima Gate victory. The message came from an unknown source, but contained detailed information about Valtharian fleet movements. Captain, this intelligence is too good to be a coincidence, warned his intelligence officer, Lieutenant Carol Price. Someone is helping. U.S. Jake studied the data. It showed the locations of major Valtharian supply depots and the schedules of their transport fleets. If this information is accurate, we could cripple their logistics in this entire sector. 2 weeks later, Jake led a series of raids against Valtharian supply lines. Each raid was perfectly timed, hitting enemy transports when they were most vulnerable. The operations were so successful that Valtharian forces began running short of ammunition and spare parts. Unknown to the humans, their secret helper was Sub-Commander Ithsay. Over the months of fighting, he had begun to question the Empire's methods. The brutal treatment of civilian populations, the refusal to consider peaceful solutions, the lies told to conquered species about protection, all of it troubled him. After watching human prisoners treat wounded Valtharian soldiers with medical care instead of killing them. Say realized that humans were not the monsters his leaders claimed they were. Dr. Amy Rodriguez made another breakthrough while studying captured Valtharian technology. She discovered that their ship computers used predictable algorithms for battle tactics. Captain Williams, I think I can predict what they'll do in battle, Amy explained to the captain of the Defiance. How? Their tactical computers follow set patterns based on enemy ship numbers and positions. If I feed the right data to our AI systems, we can know their moves before they make them. Amy's tactical prediction system was first tested during the liberation of Haven Colony. Colonel Maria Santos had been fighting there for over a year, turning the planet into an impregnable fortress. When the Valtharian relief fleet arrived to retake Haven, they found human ships waiting for them. The humans seemed to know exactly where each enemy ship would move, countering every tactic before it could be implemented. It's like they can read our minds, complained Valtharian Fleet Commander Nethkal as his forces were systematically outmaneuvered and defeated. Chief Engineer Paul Kim achieved another breakthrough by studying captured Valtharian jump drives. Their ships could travel faster than human vessels, but their jump technology was inefficient. I can make our ships jump farther and more accurately than theirs, Paul explained to Admiral Carter. If we can jump behind enemy lines and jump out before they respond, we'll have a huge tactical advantage. Paul's improved jump drives allowed human fleets to appear anywhere in a star system within minutes. Valtharian commanders found themselves constantly surprised by human attacks from unexpected directions. The combination of all these advantages, better shields, communication jamming, tactical prediction, and superior mobility, began to turn the tide of war decisively in humanity's favor. But the biggest change came when other species began openly joining the human cause. The Mordani were the first to declare independence from the Valtharian Empire. Elder Vexara broadcast a message across the galaxy. For 800 years we have lived under Valtharian rule. We were told it was for our protection. We were told resistance was impossible. The humans have shown us that both claims were lies. Today, the Mordani people declare our independence. Within days, 17 other species made similar declarations. The Valtharian Empire was facing rebellions on dozens of worlds for the first time in their history. High Commander Zeftai received increasingly desperate reports from across the Empire. Not only were humans winning battles, but their victories were inspiring others to rebel. High Commander, we are losing control of entire sectors, Ithsay reported, though he secretly felt glad about the rebellions. This is impossible. How can inferior species defeat the Empire? Perhaps they are not as inferior as we believed, Ithsay said quietly. Zeftai turned to stare at his second-in-command. Do you question the Empire's superiority? Ithsay met his leader's glowing eyes. I question why we never tried to understand the humans before attacking them. They offered us friendship. We chose war. The conversation was interrupted by an emergency alert. Human forces had attacked and destroyed a major Valtharian fleet base, capturing hundreds of ships and thousands of prisoners. Zeftai realized that his empire faced the greatest crisis in its 3,000-year history. The humans had not only refused to surrender, they were winning the war. For the first time since the conflict began, Zeftai began to consider that the mighty Valtharian Empire might actually lose this war, but he was not ready to surrender. If the Empire was going to fall, it would fall fighting. The final phase of the war was about to begin. The final battle was coming. Admiral Lisa Carter stood before the largest human fleet ever assembled. 200 ships from Earth, Mars, and the liberated colonies filled space around the Proxima system. Today, they would attack the heart of the Valtharian Empire. Admiral, all rebel fleets report ready to jump, announced Captain Mike Stevens. Lisa looked at the tactical display. Alongside the human ships were vessels from 43 different species that had declared independence. From the Empire, the Mordani had brought 30 warships. The Kelani contributed their fast attack craft. Even small species that had been slaves for centuries sent whatever ships they could. "Dr. Rodriguez, are your systems ready?" Lisa asked. Amy Rodriguez nodded from her station. "All Harmony jammers are synchronized. When we activate them at Zeftar Prime, the entire Valtharian command structure will be unable to communicate." Captain Jake Mitchell's voice came over the fleet communication system from his flagship Indomitable. "Admiral, reconnaissance reports the Imperial capital is heavily defended. Over 300 Valtharian warships guard the system." "Understood." "Captain, remember, our goal is not to destroy their species. We want to end their empire and free the galaxy." The jump to Zeftar Prime took 6 hours. When the combined fleet emerged from hyperspace, they found themselves facing the most beautiful and terrifying sight any of them had ever seen. The Valtharian capital world hung in space like a giant crystal, its surface covered with cities that glowed with inner light. Around it orbited dozens of space stations and shipyards, all connected by streams of light. Protecting this wonder were hundreds of Valtharian warships in perfect formation. High Commander Zeftai watched the approaching fleet from his command center on the largest orbital station. For the first time in the war, he felt something he had never experienced before: fear. "High Commander, enemy fleet composition is unlike anything we have seen," reported his tactical officer. "Humans, Mordani, Kelani, and 38 other species fighting together. How is this possible?" Zeftai whispered. "How do so many different species coordinate with each other?" Sub-Commander Ithsay, who had been quietly helping the rebellion for months, had the answer but did not speak. The species were united because they all wanted the same thing: freedom. The battle began when Jake Mitchell led the first wave of attackers against the outer defensive line. Paul Kim's adaptive shields protected the human ships while Amy Rodriguez's jammers disrupted Valtharian coordination. But this time was different. The Valtharians had learned from their defeats and developed countermeasures. Some of their ships could resist the jamming. Others had modified their weapons to penetrate human shields. "Admiral Carter, we're taking heavy losses," reported Captain Mitchell as explosions lit up space around his ship. "All rebel fleets, implement Plan Starfall," Lisa ordered. Plan Starfall was something no military force had ever attempted before. Instead of traditional battle formations, the combined fleet scattered into thousands of small groups. Each group attacked different targets simultaneously. The Mordani ships used their natural ability to phase through solid matter to attack from inside Valtharian shields. The Kelani vessels moved so fast they appeared as streaks of light. Human ships coordinated the entire chaotic battle using their advanced computer systems. From his command center, Zeftai watched his perfect defensive formations crumble under attacks from directions he had never imagined possible. Sub-Commander Ithsay, "Our forces cannot handle this type of warfare," he admitted. Ithsay looked at his leader with sadness. "High Commander, perhaps it is time to consider that there might be another way to end this." "Surrender?" "The Empire does not surrender. The Empire has never faced an enemy like this before." The battle raged for 12 hours. Slowly, the combined fleet fought its way toward the capital world. Both sides suffered heavy losses, but the defenders were losing ground. Jake Mitchell led a desperate assault on the Imperial Palace Station, the seat of Valtharian power for 3,000 years. His ship Indomitable, heavily damaged but still fighting, docked with the station's hull. "All boarding teams go," Jake ordered. Human Marines, accompanied by Mordani phase warriors and Kelani speedfighters, poured into the crystalline corridors of the Palace Station. They faced Valtharian guards in close combat for the first time. The fighting was fierce but brief. The Valtharian warriors were individually stronger, but they had never fought enemies who worked together so well. Human tactics, Mordani abilities, and Kelani speed combined into something unstoppable. Jake Mitchell reached the Imperial Command Center to find High Commander HFY standing alone. Most of his staff had fled or been captured. "High Commander," Jake said, lowering his weapon. "This war can end now. Surrender your forces and we can begin peace negotiations." HFY's crystal face glowed with anger. "You think you have won? The Empire has ruled for 3,000 years. We will not be defeated by primitives." "Look around you," Jake replied. "Your empire is crumbling. Your own people are questioning your rule. End this before more beings die." Before HFY could respond, Sub-Commander HFY entered the command center. "High Commander, I must speak." "HFY, arrest these invaders." Instead, HFY removed his weapon and placed it on the floor. "High Commander, I cannot follow these orders anymore. For months, I have watched this war destroy everything I believed about our empire." HFY stared at his second-in-command. In shock, "You betray the empire?" "I choose the future over the past," HFY replied. "Captain Mitchell, the Valtharian fleet will cease hostilities. I am taking command under emergency protocols." The fighting stopped within hours as HFY's orders spread throughout the Valtharian forces. Some commanders refused to surrender and had to be defeated, but most chose to follow their new leader. 3 days later, President Helen Davis arrived at Zephyr Prime aboard the diplomatic ship Unity. The peace negotiations took place in the same crystal halls where the Empire had planned conquests for 3 millennia. "Commander HFY," President Davis began, "humanity does not seek revenge. We want to build a galaxy where all species can live free." HFY, now speaking for his people, replied, "President Davis, the Valtharian Republic accepts these terms. We will release all conquered species and dismantle the imperial system." The formal treaty was signed 1 week later. The Valtharian Empire officially ended after 3,000 years of rule. In its place arose the Galactic Freedom Coalition, with humanity as one of its founding members. Admiral Carter became the first commander of the Coalition Peace Corps, dedicated to protecting free worlds from any future tyrants. Captain Mitchell was promoted to Admiral and placed in charge of the new Galactic Defense Force. Dr. Amy Rodriguez accepted the position of first human ambassador to the Valtharian Republic, helping them transition from empire to democracy. Chief Engineer Paul Kim led a team that shared human technology with all species willing to use it for peaceful purposes. Colonel Maria Santos returned to Haven Colony, which became a training center where former enemies learned to work together. Valtharian engineers studied human defensive tactics while human scientists learned about Valtharian energy technology. The transformation was not immediate or easy. Some Valtharian hardliners tried to restart the empire. Some conquered species wanted revenge rather than peace. But slowly, cooperation replaced domination. High Commander HFY was tried for war crimes, but received a light sentence when he agreed to help rebuild the worlds his forces had damaged. Even he eventually came to understand that the galaxy was better without the Empire. 5 years after the war ended, President Davis gave a speech at the new Galactic Assembly on the neutral world of Harmony Station. Representatives from over 400 species filled the Great Hall. "5 years ago, we told the Valtharian Empire not to push us," she said. "We wanted peace, but we were prepared for war. Today, we offer our hand in friendship to all who would live free among the stars." The assembly erupted in applause from beings of every shape and color imaginable. Captain Jake Mitchell, now Admiral Mitchell, watched from the viewing gallery with his wife and children. His son asked, "Dad, will there be more wars?" Jake looked out at the peaceful ships from dozens of worlds docked at the station. "I hope not, son. But if anyone tries to take away our freedom, they'll learn the same lesson the Empire learned. What lesson? Jake smiled. That when you push humans, we don't just push back. We change the whole galaxy. Outside the station, ships from the Coalition, Peace Corps patrolled the space lanes, protecting the freedom that so many had fought to win. The galaxy had learned that some things were worth fighting for, and that united, even the smallest species could topple the mightiest empire. The age of the Valtharian Empire was over. The age of galactic freedom had begun.